So Japan is paying people to travel during the pandemic. Yeah, you heard me. During the middle of a pandemic, Japan is not only encouraging its residents to travel, but actually paying them to travel and vacation all around Japan. And Tokyo residents who were excluded the last couple months will be included from October 1st. And as you can see behind me, I'm at Tokyo Haneda Airport right now to better explain all of this. But before I start, like always, if you want to see what I'm doing on the daily, check out my Instagram account. If you want to help support the channel, check out the Tokyo merch. And if you have any questions about Japan or your Japan travels, check out my Discord community. Alright, fasten your seatbelts because this video might get a little bit bumpy. So the Japanese government earlier this July launched a go-to travel campaign worth 1.35 trillion yen, about $12.7 billion. Basically, this government-sponsored campaign offers anyone living in Japan up to 50% off all of their travel, including hotel and transportation such as flights and trains, just as long as they book through one of the specified travel agencies. And this also includes foreigners living in Japan. Each person can get up to a 20,000 yen discount per night, which is about $190 for an unlimited amount of nights. And basically, this campaign goes until the funds run out, which is expected to be in early 2001. Obviously, there are some restrictions, but you can also book day trips and hotels on your own, but at a lower subsidy rate. Nonetheless, the government is really giving people financial incentive to travel during this time. What do you think? Do you think it's the right move? And how does it compare to your country? Let's look around to see how this campaign is working. So I'm at the arrival gate in the domestic terminal, and you can see it's quite busy right now. The domestic terminals have been relatively quiet early on this year, but since the government notified Tokyo residents that they would be included in the campaign, it gave many people who were on the fence about traveling a reason to start flying again. See, most Japanese have been compliant with government safety recommendations from the start. Many people stayed home these last few months and avoided going out unless absolutely necessary, such as for work or shopping for essentials. I mean, look around in this video. You'll be hard-pressed to find a single person walking around without a mask. But then, the government decided to run this travel all over Japan without a care in the world campaign, and it sort of gave the entire country a green light to travel again, even before Tokyo was included in the campaign. This was especially the case a couple weeks back during Silver Week in Tokyo when Japan went on a 4-day holiday. The domestic terminals were packed with travelers who finally needed a release after months of quarantine. So unlike the domestic terminals, the international terminals, you'll find that a lot of the stores have either closed down temporarily or permanently. With most international flights limited, there just isn't enough customer traffic to keep these stores open. Pre-pandemic, all of these shops would be open, but at this time, only a few remain. You can even see that the check-in counters are almost all empty. It's a bit eerie being here compared to the domestic side, but only time will tell to see how many businesses are able to survive during this pandemic. But let me go back a few months and explain how this whole go-to travel campaign started, because it didn't start off as the smoothest campaign ever. Before I continue on, I wanted to take a quick drink break and give a shout out to our sponsor for this video, MOBAL Japan SIM. Much better. I know that many of you aren't able to travel to Japan right now, but SIMs are a useful tool, especially during these times when we're trying to keep in touch with all of our loved ones. But when you do finally make it to Japan, MOBAL Japan SIM is the best way to get your mobile device connected, suitable for short trips and longer stays. When you're using MOBAL Japan SIMs, you can easily navigate to all of your destination spots, find the best transport links, translate phrases or menus, or update your social media with all the cool things you're doing in Japan. Here are my top reasons why you should use mobile SIM cards. 1. Mobile offer free worldwide shipping sent directly to your front door. 2. You can choose to pick up the SIM card here in Japan at major airports and cities all throughout Japan. 3. Great coverage. Using the same network provider I personally use, SoftBank, which covers 99% of Japan's population. So get your Mobile Japan SIM card today by clicking on the link below and stay connected while you're here in Japan. Great water break. Let's continue on. So like many government campaigns, this one was met with a lot of controversy, mainly because we're in the middle of a pandemic and many residents feared that running this campaign would increase the spread of infection. And on top of that, some people were angered that the government was using taxpayer money to fund this campaign. So what the government decided to do was make it okay for everyone in Japan to travel except for people living in Tokyo. Hey wait, that's me! The reason being, Tokyo had the highest number of reported infections in all of Japan. And so the Japanese government decided to start the Go To Travel campaign in July, but with Tokyo excluded. So Tokyo residents couldn't participate, but on top of that, anyone living outside of Tokyo couldn't travel to Tokyo and receive the government subsidy. Which again, no surprise, pissed a lot of Tokyo residents off. First of all, the reason for being excluded from the campaign didn't make a whole lot of sense, since other areas in Japan included in the campaign had a higher rate of infection than Tokyo at the time. Areas such as Okinawa, Osaka, and Fukuoka all had higher infection rates. But of course, Tokyo would likely have the highest number of infections because they have the highest population in all of Japan. To say the least, it was a bit unsettling for Tokyo residents that the government would encourage travel to areas with higher infection rates when Tokyo itself was barred from the campaign. And two, Tokyo residents were also upset that they were funding a lot of the campaign. On average, Tokyo residents pay the most taxes in the country because they have the highest income, and like most government campaigns, it's funded by taxpayer dollars. Which finally brings us to now. As of October 1st, Tokyo will be included in the Go To Travel campaign. Mainly, the reason being is that the campaign didn't go as well as the government expected it would go without including Tokyo. Excluding Tokyo pretty much meant that they didn't have the numbers to make an impact on domestic tourism, so the government backtracked and finally included Tokyo in the Go To Travel campaign. Well, what does that mean for the country? For me, a resident of Tokyo, it pretty much just means that the government may be paying for my next trip, but at what risk? So Japan's chief cabinet secretary at the time, Suga, and now Prime Minister, reported that 5.56 million people participated in the campaign and only 6 people were infected through the service. Those numbers sound pretty encouraging. What do you think? Given those numbers, would you feel safe to travel? But on the other hand, in this Japan nationwide graph, you can see a sharp increase in positive cases starting in July. Obviously, there could be a number of factors to explain the increase, but the increase itself is pretty alarming. It's also worth noting that foreign tourists traveling into Japan are still prohibited. In the coming months though, foreign residents that were outside of Japan when the travel bans were put in place will soon be allowed back into Japan. Finally, the Go To Travel campaign is the first of a 4-part campaign. It will be followed by Go To Eat campaign, Go To Events campaign, and Go To Shopping Streets campaign. I'm quite interested to see how these ones play out as well. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on all of this and how it compares to your country. So I'll leave you with that. Thanks again to Newton for helping me film this one. And if you want to see more of these type of videos or Japan guides or anything related to Japan, hit that subscribe button and the bell button, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.